What it do? What it do? What's up? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. We're a little bit late, but that's all right. We're here.
It's all right.
It is. It is. I'm still trying to just get used to.
Right?
I'm still moving. Can you
Yes.
still be moving for 2 weeks? Like, is it possible to still
Oh
be
yes.
moving? Like, fuck. Like, I'm
You
still
could be moving.
moving.
You ain't moved in a long time. No, you could be moving
No, it's
for
been eight
6 months.
years since I've moved.
Yeah, no, you could be 6 months and still moving.
I don't want to be moving in 6 months. I want this shit to be over
I
with
mean, you don't have to,
immediately.
but it's very normal for somebody to be in their
Taking that
place for
long to
six
get.
months and it's still haven't got everything
Like, I
situated yet.
literally made my first meal at the house today, and that's not because like I want to eat out every day. Like, I just hadn't had a kitchen put together. Like, and then having to buy groceries
Right.
because I don't know which of my storage units most of my pantry food is, and blah blah blah. Like, this has been a cluster of a move. So like tonight was the first night I actually made a meal. And I was like, I picked the worst night ever. Like, I had two cleans today and then I made a dinner and I knew we had to do this. So I was like, why did I
What did you
wait?
make?
So we grew up on this staple, right? It's called hamburger, beans, and rice, just like poor people food. But like, that was something we grew up on. And instead of it being
Uh-huh.
like a savory dish, ours is a sweet dish. So it's like pork and beans is what
Okay.
you're supposed to use. So it's like ground beef, pork and beans, and then of course rice. So I use like
Mm-hmm.
the vegetarian baked beans and I put a bunch of brown sugar in it, and then I make some vegan cornbread, and like, it's literally like it's my dad's one of my dad's staples. And so the boys were
Yeah.
like, when I asked them, I was like, what do you want the first meal to be? They're like, you already know. I was like, all right.
Yeah. That's
So
cute.
made a little dinner and here we are. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And I like this topic too. I like that we took an interesting last week and turned it into like, the flip, because um I had some interesting conversations after last week's episode aired. So it's cool to,
Okay.
you
I
know,
don't know what that means, but all right.
well, people just picking apart more of the show, right? Picking apart more of the it happens for a reason. And, you
Uh,
saying, like, what if I don't know the reason, right? Like, does that still mean that it happens for a reason? So people, it's always interesting when people don't engage here, but of
well,
course
that's
they hit you up
obvious. When you say something
afterwards.
happens for a reason, then the only time people say that is when we don't know the reason.
Well, but so then, so again, so it
Otherwise, they'd be
being
like,
good
you know why
advice
this
or
happened,
not
right?
good advice. So being good advice or not good advice. But
Right.
it's interesting how everybody takes that differently, which was the point of, last week's conversation. Was it really depends on your sender and your receiver how that particular, morsel of advice can go either direction. So I'm looking forward to good advice. And I'm looking forward to next week. Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday. Next
Oh, yeah, we
Tuesday, the
gonna be
last
live next
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay.
We are gonna be at the truck next Tuesday. It's the last Tuesday of the month. So we will be in person. We'll be up at the food truck. And hopefully the weather cooperates. If it doesn't, that's fine, because we're in a covered enclosed patio, or a pavilion. So we're fine. But for those of y'all who are local, and I didn't know till, so when I came over last week and hung out with you for your birthday and we went live, I didn't know Kevin left Austin. He's not here anymore.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so as I was reading the comments, because we were like, come up Tuesday, come up here. I think he moved to
Yeah.
Colorado. I was like, oh snap. I said, he done burnt
Right.
off. So if you're local, come up to the
Yeah.
food truck. Come up to the food truck next Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month. Sorry, I've got something on me. I'm trying to get this hair off me. It's touching me, and I hate that. What's
Hmm.
up, Denise? You made it in.
I made it. Nothing. I went and I was doing some marketing.
Ooh,
I was being my own street team.
I know that's right. Got to shoot.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today. How much time I spend just promoting my own business, and gathering leads and responding to leads and going and doing quotes and bids and following up on them. Like, you got to be your own team.
Yeah. That's the part I'm getting together. Ooh,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of advice about that, like running your own business. I would
Girl.
love to hear um, the advice on stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because and kind of some of this kind of came to conversation that Q and I were having last week when I was over at his place. Just how everybody thinks differently based on your experiences and like where you come from. And we were joking about our kids dropping out of high school, and he's like, my son is not dropping out. And I was like, true. However, like what if and it just kind of we kind of talked about just like the beginning blocks of like working and getting experience, and how most people's mindset is set up to graduate high school, go to college, go to trade school, get a job, go work for somebody, get a job, just start getting some experience. And I hope that my son's experience is leave high school and start a business, open a business, figure out how can I sell myself? What can I do to sell myself? And so it just made me think about just the huge difference for me coming from a space where like, yeah, my dad had jobs before he opened the family business. And my mom, we got down here to Texas because she worked for IBM, but eventually ran the business with my dad and retired from IBM. But like, all I really know is you work for yourself. Whether you're running the family business or you're doing yard work or you're a carpenter or you're a chef or whatever, like you are your business, as opposed to somebody who's never ever ran a business, operated one, and depended on nobody but themselves for a paycheck. Like when you have the security to be able to clock in and clock out every day and know my paycheck's going to be the same, or I know about what it's going to be, every time I get paid. There's a big difference in that for people who work by themselves, who there is no clocking in. If there's no money coming in, there's no bills being paid. So it's interesting when you separate, Smack and I used to talk about this a lot. And, I say there's an employee mindset and there's an employer mindset. Sometimes they're not interchangeable, but it's interesting, entrepreneurship and business ownership is everybody needs employees. So everybody's not an employer, but I think most people could be entrepreneurs. I think most people could sell themselves, could sell their passion, could sell their talent and their skills. We just are so used to the comfort of clocking in and having that convenience of a paycheck with somebody else's name on it.
Yeah. And it's not really guaranteed. It's like this false sense of guarantee.
Yeah. Like at what point could a business close down? Like at what point could they let you go? At what point did they say, oh, like how many people do you know have been let go from a place before, who have
COVID let us know what it was for real.
Then there's that,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, that has to be a marking point for everybody who is alive today. Like that has to be a timestamp of when everything changed. Mentalities and just how we look at things and shit. Down to bad advice and good advice, really. I think COVID was a huge turning point for a lot of people in how do I stay afloat? Because if your business was shut down, if you were not an essential worker, like you were shit out of luck. You couldn't do nothing.
And the people who did have jobs were overworked because even if they could work remote, they were working from home. So what I noticed with a lot of my coworkers is they didn't have boundaries with working, because also you're trying to prove your worth because you don't want to be out of a job. And employers began to take advantage of that. And now some of that is like the new standard. I mean, there's the other hand of that where people are working from home and good damn well they're not working from home.
Right. Right.
It's definitely an interesting shift. But
I just saw something that I don't remember what business it was. I want to say it was one of the major tech companies, I guess, just let go a bunch of people because they had something set up on their computer or their mouse or their keyboard or something to like make it move like you're working when you're not working. I can't think of what it's called, but
some companies are doing that. Thankfully, my company never did that, and I wasn't really remote like that anyways. But
okay.
They make it to where your mouse has to move a certain amount of time so they know that you're actually working.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank God I would never work for a company like that.
But that kind of brings to a good point. Going along the topic of good advice. Like there's a post on Freethinkers Now that basically talks about how was it Dell that wanted to call back, a chunk of their employees and the people that will work from home. And people are like, yeah, we're not coming back. And they're like, well, if y'all don't come back, you don't get promotions, you don't get raises, like you don't get anything else.
Like, I'm all right with that.
Today advice, fuck that job. Like go ahead, because
But
what you want to do more work, like you may get $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 raise, but like at what cost? Traffic, going into the office, clothes, wear and tear on your car. Like I think before COVID advice was you better go to work. I think after COVID advice is shit, I'll make it work. I can stay home still. I don't need the promotion. I'm fine right here where I am.
My partner's friend from college worked at Dell in Austin. He got the job straight out of college, had the job for 15 years, and they laid him off.
Wow.
Because a part of it was kind of like also when it comes down to who we decide who we're going to cut. That's the thing about going to work. Like, there's a certain level of politicking that happens on the job, in person, at happy hours, all this other stuff that you kind of got to go to if you're trying to take that thing to the next level. Because, like, for instance, at my job, now they have it to where when it comes down to like review time, so for companies, they have reviews. And at reviews, if you do well enough, you get a raise. So at my company, they have this thing where your manager and all the other managers who are in that department but don't necessarily manage you and you may not work with as often, they all sit down and they talk about why they think you should or should not get a raise. So you kind of low key have to be dibbling and dabbling and talking to all these different people, and all these people have to feel a way about you in order for you to get this raise, because it's not just based on your work ethic. It is based on their experience with you and how they view your work ethic and what you do. It's very interesting. So politics is deep. So it depends on what you want to do. If you want to raise, even if it's just and then some companies didn't do cost of living raises because it was so tight. So it's like, if you want more money and you want to get the promotion that's going to really give you more money besides the cost of living, then you do want to go to work. If you're looking at your job as a career, then you do want to go in. If you're just like, this is just something I'm doing right now, it don't matter.
I mean, but in the same token, COVID showed most people that most jobs can be done from home, though, too. You can still do, now there's obviously certain things where you have to go out for you. If you have to see clients, I mean, if you have a client-based type of business, like everything can't be done from home. I get that. But it's like when you start to outweigh the responsibilities of what I got to do to get a promotion versus the responsibilities of what I got to do to keep myself comfortable, keep these bills paid, like mileage low on my car, ain't spending no money on gas, like not putting wear and tear on it. My tires are lasting a lot longer than they usually do. No traffic. Like you said, work politics, no bullshit at the office, like the before me advice would have obviously been, no, you do what you got to do to get the promotion. The today me advice, man, whatever makes you happy. Literally, whatever makes you happy. If going in makes you happy and you want the expectations, responsibilities of what that is now going to look like, go ahead and do that. If you're like, man, fuck these people. I literally just want to give you the bare minimum or what I've been giving you. I can't give you any more. I'm cool without the promotion. I'm fine with that because I'm saving money by not having to go in versus
and
going
time.
5 days a week.
Time.
And time. Like, I think Jules even broke it down somewhere. It was like 15 hours a week spent just in traffic in Austin. Like, you think about that times $20 an hour times $30 an hour. Like, you can't give me enough of a promotion to go sit in traffic. Like, you know,
pay for your
obviously
lunch.
every situation is different, and all situations are different. We're talking about 5% raises, man. You keep that shit.
Yep.
Keep that
That's
shit.
covering cost of living.
Yes.
When you think about it. But
cost of living increase. What is that?
yeah.
Does it even? So was that even significant enough? Like,
No,
what
it's like
what is?
3%, I think, or something ridiculous like that. 3% is what a cost of living.
So it didn't translate into
It
much.
does nothing. Not especially not when you live in New York. With what I paid in 2020, when I paid in 2019 for rent, what I pay now, I paid twice the amount.
From just 2020 to 2024.
Mm-hmm. Technically 2019 to 2024. Oh yeah.
God.
5 years, if your salary has not doubled, then you're not keeping up with the
Exactly.
cost of living.
Yep.
That is unbelievable, man. That's crazy. All right, so good advice. Good advice. Good advice. Good advice. Did you have anywhere you wanted to go with this, Q?
We could just start naming some off and talking about them.
Well, usually I didn't even make mental notes.
Let's okay. So let's go here.
I have
let's
one.
Go. Okay, before we go here, let's
Mm-hmm.
let's go there before we go. Is there any criteria or any things that you look at, study, or monitor to determine if something is good advice, or is it straight how your gut responds to it? Like, for instance, I gave you last week, I said, for me, who the advice comes from makes a difference to me on how well I receive it. That's one of my criteria. Who's giving this advice? I know everybody like good information is good information. I'm like, if it's that good, if the information is that good, then it will also work for the person who's giving it. And if you're giving advice and I see that it's not working for you, or you don't even heed to your own advice, I may hear that, I may listen to that same advice from somebody who's actually following it. That's just me. But
I agree with
like
you.
That. Go ahead.
No, I'm with you on that. I was thinking about somebody that I know recently who was kind of doing some Facebook professing recently. And in my mind, I was like, but you don't even do this in your life. Like, but you're not really about this life in your actual business. Like, so I mean, it doesn't mean that a person doesn't know what to say. It doesn't mean that a person doesn't have the right things to say. Just because I might not be applying it to my life doesn't mean that you don't still know what I need to hear or could be good advice. But I think it is a filter. I think it definitely is a barrier when,
right,
maybe you're getting advice from somebody and you like, but you're not applying this either. Any criteria?
Golly.
Go
Y'all
ahead.
made me think of something real quick.
My criteria is when usually it depends on how strong a person is coming in and what perspective they're coming in from. But usually I live by the Jay-Z quote from Already Home, Blueprint 3. Everybody can tell you how to do it. They never did it. Meaning, how you gonna tell me something about something you ain't done? You can't go so hard.
Right.
Giving me advice on something that you have not done. You just cannot.
Of course.
So that's a big part of it for me. Like, I'm not going to take exercise advice from someone who's morbidly obese. I'm not going to take diet advice from someone who's morbidly obese. I'm just not. Like, I'm not going to take relationship advice with someone who always got a new person every few months. I'm just not.
You gotta get under one to get over the other.
I At least not the kind of relationship advice that requires me to be in a long-term relationship.
Right.
Like you can tell a tree by the fruit it bears. If your fruit is bearing apples and I want oranges, I'm not picking from that tree.
Yeah. But do you think that, because I mean, I feel you, and it's like the same thing I just said, but then I think about it at the same time, does that exclude a person from giving good advice though? Like I know I've been backsliding like a motherfucker. I've been backsliding big time on my diet since this move, right? And
burgers, pizza.
Oh my God. And look, and I'm not in denial. So I am full on, like, I am not in denial. I am not making excuses. The bitch just backslid all the way. Like, I call myself the terrible fucking vegan so I can leave that window open so that I have no guilt whenever I backslide. But that's not going to stop.
I told you I was a terrible vegan.
I'm saying, I mean, I always say like 97% of the time I'm vegan, but I was telling the boys today, I was like, yeah, I'm not vegan anymore after this meal. But does that mean I can't give good advice about dietary issues and veganism and like how the body works? I don't think that excludes me or disqualifies me from giving good advice, but maybe somebody might feel some type of way watching me eat some fucking meat while I'm talking about being vegan or the benefits of being vegan, right?
I think
just
because
you had a couple of burgers. Just because you had a couple of burgers, Nikki.
I haven't had a burger, by the way. I'm
just saying. you had some teriyaki wings or whatever it was you had that you just swear it's like what you do for the majority of the time
versus
what you do occasionally is two different things. A lifestyle versus like a here and there, a one-off, a moment in time, are just two different things.
True that. Well, but as you say that, Denise, I'm literally thinking about like, the group dynamic process, right? So like in our family business, we do group treatment, it's group therapy. And everybody in there is struggling with addiction or alcoholism or, they're fucking playing with fire, right? Like maybe they don't have a full-on dependency issue, but like you got one foot in, like with this, the relationship is definitely not good. In a group setting, it is obviously counselor led and it's curriculum based and it's topic based. So it's driven the whole entire time, but it's the job of the group to participate with each other, right? The group runs the group, right? The counselor facilitates, but the group runs the group. And so you have this addict and this addict and this addict and this addict and this. I mean, just because they may not be clean at that particular moment doesn't mean they don't have the wisdom to know what needs to be said to the next person. And so I think that all situations can be different, but as I keep saying this over and over and over, like I feel like maybe that is maybe that's like an unsubconscious barrier that we put out there.
I don't know, because that setting to me is different, right? If you are, who can tell you more about dealing with an addiction than someone who is dealing with an addiction? You know what sets you off. You know what triggers you. You know what it feels like to have that thirst and that hunger for that thing. Like everybody else, they're just, what they're telling you, not to say that it won't work, but it's just like clinical, logical things
Textbook
that should work based on, but the person who really lived it can straight up tell you. That's why I just don't even dabble with certain things, because like I was on the edge of that and I've seen addiction. So it's like seeing addiction, experiencing it, like it'll change. Like you can give advice to someone because you've had the experience, even if you aren't the most successful, know, your goal is still to be drug free or alcohol free or whatever the addiction is. Substances,
Well, but what about like an overweight person giving advice about like, I mean, just because a person may not be able to apply it to themselves doesn't mean they don't know the information to give to the next person. I think that's where discipline comes in. That's one of the roots of all addiction of any sort, whether it's sex, porn, food, sugar, alcohol, drugs, people, love. you name it, like gambling, whatever the case may be, like there's that component in there of lack of discipline.
Is it lack of discipline, or is it like, doesn't it get to a point where it goes beyond lack of discipline and it's just a chemical thing now? And like,
yes,
your
I mean,
body,
chemical imbalance actually happens, and absolutely. Like with substances or substances that are mood altering, and I'm not talking about just drugs and alcohol. You got prescriptions in here. There's a lot of other things that are not, you know, it's sugar, fucking the 70 different ways that you can call sugar, you know, all the different ways that it breaks down into other things. Like, yes, once there's a chemical imbalance happening, it's rewired your transmitters, your neurotransmitters, your receptors, you know, I mean, like your dopamine is changed, your serotonin is changed. Like you literally now are fighting with a body that's not even producing chemicals regularly anymore. I mean, depression does that to people. Bipolar disorder does that to people. Like there's so many things that literally affect our chemical imbalance that, yes, discipline is part of that, but then this is where you have to get into, you know, higher power or lack thereof, right? Like admitting that I've got a problem, like this thing, whatever this is, doesn't stop no matter how much I try to control this. There's nothing I can do that makes me just have one. There's nothing I can do that makes me just buy one purse. There's nothing I can do that makes me just, you know, steal one pack of meat from the grocery store. Like once that motherfucker gets fed, it's just over and over and over. So discipline is part of that, but you're right, there is a chemical imbalance, and that's like, you know, oftentimes in therapeutic situations we tell people all the time, family members, like, you're not dealing with your loved one anymore. You are in the physical body, but the mind of the person that you're dealing with, the spirit of the person you're dealing with, is not that same person. They're in there, but they're struggling to get the fuck out too.
Oof.
So advice,
Nikki, please, while we're here, speaking of good advice, what advice do you give family members, friends, loved ones of people who struggle with addiction?
Go to Al-Anon immediately. Get involved with Al-Anon. Get involved with CODA, Codependency Anonymous. Like if you want to understand your loved one and you're not an addict, you've got to go fucking understand what addicts go through. Because all too often, family members and loved ones, oh, just quit drinking, just quit using, just put the internet down, like no more porn, like no more gambling, no more sports betting, like no more sugar, no more blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it sounds great because in theory, most of us can just, you know, put the fucking cookies down and be fine. Most of us could, you know, have a beer or two and be like, oh, I'm good, I'm straight, like I don't need anymore. Like, but for somebody who has a true chemical imbalance and you get down to the root traumas of why this person is using or drinking in the manner in which they are, you need to go be around other family members who also don't understand what the fuck this is, to understand that what you don't understand is normal. That what you don't understand, everybody that loves an addict or an alcoholic feels the same fucking fears, frustrations, angers, resentments, concerns, you know, all of those things. So going and understanding, one, what is my place in this? Am I enabling? Am I codependent? You know, am I allowing this shit to happen? Do I even know that this is what's happening? Some people don't even know those words. Yeah. So going and putting them in a space. I mean, we oftentimes when we have like a parent or a partner come with their partner and enroll in the program, I love when I get a parent come through. I'm like, I'm gonna put the kid over here and I'm gonna put the parent over here because we finna talk. Same thing with the wife or husband. The wife comes in, wants to do all the paperwork, answer all the fucking questions. We finna go over here. Me and you finna talk over here. I'm gonna let him do his paperwork, and you and I are finna go talk over here, because she is usually part of the problem. He is usually part of the problem. The children are usually part of the problem. The parents are usually part of the problem. Unsubconsciously, oftentimes, a lot of times. But have to go to Al-Anon, have to go to CODA, have to understand what it's like, and to know that you're totally not alone, to know that you have thousands of people who are going through the same shit as you are as a family member or a friend. Like, somehow that makes you just feel a little bit fucking better that it's not just you, you know, and then you start to meet your people. You now meet a family and a community of people who are like, this is what actively choosing to love an addict looks like. This is what choosing to love an alcoholic looks like. And I think that's, I don't know. I think coming from both of those spaces my whole entire life, like, I don't know. I was very, very mindful when getting into the profession that I didn't want to be a licensed chemical dependency counselor because I'm not in recovery. I hope I'll never have to be in recovery. The type of recovery that I'm in is relationship recovery, is making bad choices, with the wrong people type of recovery, right? Healing self, right? Like getting down to my own issues, right? But substances is not my thing. And so I never wanted to be an LCDC because I've never shot dope to avoid getting dope sick. Like I've never sold my body for drug money. I've never stole for drug money. I've never blacked out and woke up in the back of a fucking cop car a couple times. Like there's just a lot of things I've not experienced because I've not experienced those things. And so I was very cautious in the very beginning. Like I didn't want to give bad advice. I didn't want to counsel wrong. I didn't want to guide improperly. But I also knew after now 25 years of being in this profession, and then, my parents, I was 5 when they got clean. I live this. Like living this is, I've seen both sides to it, right? So I still try to be very mindful with how I counsel people who come in. A lot of times they'll say, "Are you in recovery?" And I'll say, "No, I'm not." And they'll be like, "Well, why are you here?" And then I get to tell the story of why I'm there. This is my family's business. Woo woo. And it makes them a little more receptive to hearing me, but very easily they can shut down on me. Like, "Oh, well, bitch, you don't know nothing about what I'm going through." So you have to be really careful on that aspect. I just think that if you're going to be a person who gives advice or counsel at all, you gotta know your shit. You gotta be on top of it. You really do, because most people don't ask for help. Most people don't want to ask for help. So to be somebody who's asking for help, you got to have the bandwidth to be able to give advice to somebody. But I just wonder what the barriers are in there, or what some of our selected barriers are in that, so that we don't hear what someone says,
I mean, an addict can 1,000% tell me what not to do as it pertains. I'm telling you. I tell y'all this story all the time. My dad and my stepdad told me the same story, the same thing, like within the same 6 to 9 months. They had never spoken to each other, never nothing, and they both told me, "I see something in you that I see in myself, and it's not a good thing." It was almost
wow.
that crazy. And that's why I know exactly what they meant, even though they didn't straight up say it, because I guess maybe they didn't want to, I don't know,
right,
like scare me or put that on me, like, but it was just like, oh, I know what you're saying. And then like when I went to college, I remember like having moments where I was depressed and I was drinking, I was smoking, and I was drinking before class. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and like I seen where it was going. But because they said what they said while still battling what they battled with, like I was able to receive it because of the experience.
Wow. And that's almost how you can know that it wasn't meant for you. Because if the disease was meant for you, they would have stopped you. They would have stopped you. The disease would have been like, "Oh, I can control this. Watch me, watch me, watch me." But having the insight and the wisdom to know, the discipline, the foresight to be like, let me pump the brakes on this shit, because I have seen this growing up. I do know what this looks like. Like, I don't want to fucking do this shit. Like, no way. And I think for me, growing up, living a very good life, not like financial wise, but like a good, happy life for the most part, and never ever seeing a drop of alcohol. Like my parents, my dad was sober till he died, right? Like I never saw alcohol. Like we didn't see drugs. Like we lived life, like regular ass people. There was just no alcohol and drugs. So what was made normal to me is what I've been able to make normal to my children, right? But when you come from a household where normal is alcoholism or drug addiction, everything else is like, I don't know if you saw me post on my Facebook the other day. I learned when my mom was down here a couple months ago, month ago or so, that when I was 3, I didn't know this. She's like, "Oh, you don't remember? Fuck no, I don't remember. I barely remember yesterday. Like, I don't remember when I was 3. Like, I don't remember a lot of my childhood." Um, but she was like, "Yeah." She was like, "It was, it was a couple years before, your dad got clean. Da 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 da. It was right before I was gonna go to school. I guess. I guess she was fucking baking, and I literally." Lined up some fucking flour on the counter and did a line of baking flour at 3, 4 years old in the kitchen because I'd seen people snort coke apparently all the time. Like, so that was no big deal. And my mom said when that shit happened, she was like, "That's it. That was pretty much it. Like, I told your dad, like, we cannot keep fucking doing this. Like, she's gonna go to school, they're gonna take her, like, da 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 da." And I was like, wow. 3 years old, I'm fucking doing a line of flour because it was made socially normal and acceptable for me to see drugs and watch people do drugs. Like, and here I am, sometimes still feeling some type of way about my kids even watching me drink alcohol. So it's quite a difference from where I come from.
Yeah. Wow.
But it's good that you heard that, though. It's good that your experience allowed you to hear that message from those people that you loved and cared about.
Yeah. I mean, and there have been times where and then I think me seeing their life made me very curious as to how they got there. So I would kind of, I don't know, like kind of reverse engineer, like, how did they get to that point and what was it? And I am so heavily convinced, at least for me, I think it's like doing it for fun is great, but as soon as it ain't recreational and you're doing it because you're trying to get through the day, that is when you could probably step over that line.
Yeah. It's only fun till it's not fun anymore. And I tell it to my clients, all this shit's fun till it ain't fun. And then when it ain't fun, it's fucking terrible. It's terrible. I watched on Netflix last night, and I'd seen it before, Hillbilly Elegy or some shit. Hillbilly Allergy or some shit. Ironically, it's JD Vance's story, which it didn't even occur to me until this morning. I was like, the same JD Vance that Trump just fucking chose for his VP. But so he wrote a book and made a movie about his upbringing. And his upbringing, like I felt for the dude because he came from an alcoholic mom, an alcoholic grandparents, alcoholic drug addict family, and just watching basically this memoir of him growing up with a mentally ill drug addict mom who started off as a nurse and went from one pill to fucking shooting dope in her ankles, like just how emotionally abusive, physically abusive, like verbally abusive, like just how bad this kid had it. And all I could think of when I was watching this yesterday is this is how a lot of kids grew up, and this is what was made normal.
Yep.
It's made totally fucking normal. And you don't even know that it's not normal until you're like in high school. And the only reason you know that is because you're hanging out with other people's parents, and you're like, well, damn, your parents don't drink, or your parents are waking up in the morning, or your parents take us out, or and by that point, hell, by the time a kid's a teenager, it's probably already too fucking late. They've gotten a hold of your drugs and alcohol from the house because you have it all over the place.
Mm-hmm. There's this Kendrick Lamar song called ADHD on Section 80. And I used to love that song, but it took for somebody to be like, really watch the video and like really like listen, to the lyrics for real. And it was like the reason why our generation, I think, was so heavy on lean and like all this other stuff is because the generation before was on crack. And like to us, like crack is the pinnacle of all drugs. And as long as you're not doing that, you're all right,
Right. Just and don't be a crackhead.
Yeah. So like I think socially it normalized like just doing other drugs recreationally is like not so bad. And that's why you could just be a lot of people on lean or on pills and like all these other things that are hard drugs,
Well, but it's crazy how society, music, has justified that though, right? Like you can't be a heroin addict, but you could fucking drink lean all day. It's opiates. It's the same goddamn thing as heroin for the most part. It's just one comes from the pharmacy and one comes from the street. But we'll totally justify and rationalize this shit like, oh no, it's like it's the music. It is literally the music. And I hate to say that, but it is so absolutely normalized, like drug addiction and alcoholism.
What advice would you give to parents of teenagers who now, they have their own phones, they can choose to listen to whatever music they want to listen to? What advice would you give to parents trying to navigate that?
You have to practice what you preach way before you start fucking preaching. You can't wait until your kids are 16 to try to discipline them. You can't wait until they're 16, 17 to try to, I want to see what's in your phone. I want to see what websites you go to. I want to see, like, you can try, but this is where you're going to meet this kid that you didn't even know existed. Like, you have to be a parent instead of their friend way before you can even think about, having a friendly relationship with them. If you don't have boundaries, you're just not going to have boundaries, period. And I know that sounds really generic, but that's really what it is. If you do not have boundaries, you're going to have a real hard time laying down laws, setting boundaries for children, setting parameters that you want them to follow. And if they've lived a life or they've watched you lie, if they've lived a life or they watch you as a hypocrite, if they've lived the life watching you be full of shit, nothing you say is ever really gonna matter. It's just words coming out of your mouth. So advice I would give, you got to be a parent when they're little. You've got to be able to put those controls into place young, so that when you need to get control, you've got control. I've said this for many years. I said, if you got bad dogs, you're probably going to also have bad children. And if you have bad children, you're probably going to also have bad dogs. If you don't have boundaries and you don't have discipline, you just don't. I'm not a fan of, going through my kids' phones. I'm not going to, but we've had conversations, of course, about social media and the do's and don'ts and what you can and cannot send and what you should and should not send and what is and is not allowable and what we do and don't do to girls or to boys or whatever the case may be. Like, we've had these conversations for a very long time. So by the time they got a cell phone, by the time they had unlimited access to the internet, it wasn't like a fucking go hog wild type situation. And I will take this shit and shut it all down right now for the rest of your life if you fuck this up. And they know this to be true because I do what I say I'm going to do. So you better respect the boundaries that are put in place or you will lose it. And it's that simple. But you got to practice what you preach. And too often you got parents who are barking down their kids' necks. Rightfully so. But like, you're not even doing this either. How are they supposed to? Yeah. You're showing them what you want them to do. And you're not doing it. It's really hard when it comes to kids.
Q, what about you? What advice would you give, or what's some of the best parenting advice you received?
Ooh, received.
I don't know if I received the best. I mean, generic advice that I've been given is, or that I live by, is my job is to be a better man than my father was, and to make my son a better man than I am. And that goes for all, that goes for all your children. And they should, because if you're properly, if they're standing on your shoulders the way that they're supposed to, then every generation, the next generation, should make it further and be better than the generation before. when it comes to drugs and stuff like that, I haven't dealt with that yet. So I don't have anything to say on that. I do check my son's phone, and I told him from the moment I gave it to him, I will periodically check your phone.
Right.
So don't, and it's not often, maybe once or twice a year. I'm like, let me see your phone. And I'll look through. There's nothing that, and I told him, like, the stuff that you is on the phone doing, I don't care about that. I just want to make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to land either one of us in jail or get you in serious trouble somewhere down
Straight
the
up.
road. Now, the other stuff that teenagers do, I'm not concerned. Like,
Right.
when I see that, I'm not concerned about that. I'm not even
Right.
mentioning that stuff. What's this on?
Right.
No.
Right.
Now, it will let me at a later time know, okay, this is where you're at right now. These are some, I'm not going to talk about exactly what he has on his phone, but it will let me know certain things that we need to make sure we're having conversations about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's that. Now, the other thing that y'all were talking a while back, the only other thing I say is when it comes to people who can give me advice and who can't give me advice, I think there's a difference between people who may not completely practice what they preach. I feel a way about that, but I can take advice from people who are not directly hypocritical to what it is that they say. So
Like-
I'm talking about woman love, this and this and that. Like, okay, so Derek Jackson. The reason I can't rock with him, it ain't that him and his wife split up and they divorced. It was the way that you spoke towards men in other situations. Like, you spoke so harshly and you spoke in strong opposition to things that they do. If you do this, then you ain't this, and that. Like, it's like, how you have that strong of an opinion and your house ain't in order? That's a problem.
Projection.
Now, I'll tell you like this, and people like TD Jakes don't bother me. And as a matter of fact, I can still listen to him with no problem, because if you actually listen to TD Jakes was never one of those fire and brimstone type of people who was telling everybody they going to hell and you got to do this, and he's pointing out every flaw and sin that people have. He was never that person. So if he does have flaws and he power bottom or whatever else you want, that's your business.
Right.
Unfortunately, your business got put out there.
Right.
But the advice that you gave was never strictly opposed to the life that anybody lives. I said the same thing about Kirk Franklin. People talking about Kirk Franklin cussing his son out, this and this. Kirk Franklin was never a holier than thou type of person. And even in his interviews or in his music, where he even tried to propel himself like he was some type of, he never did that. So I'm like, I don't have a problem seeing him be human. But people like Derek Jackson, I don't know if y'all old enough to, well, probably just wasn't relevant to you, Nikki. I don't know if you old enough, Denise, but Jimmy Swaggart back in the day. I don't know.
I remember Jimmy Swaggart.
I know the name, but I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Jimmy Swaggart.
He was a very well-known televangelist. Back in the 80s. But see, my issue with him, he spoke so harshly against sin and homosexuality and all. Like, he spoke terribly about it, and you going to hell 13 different ways if you ever part. So you saying all of this stuff and you actually doing it on the, so those are people I'm not listening to. Because you're being a deliberate hypocrite. Those are people I don't listen to. Now, if you are human and you got flaws, and you know, if you say this is the best way to do something, or you should avoid this, or these are the consequences to these actions, not even trying to attack the person, but you're just speaking about the consequences of certain situations and actions. I don't have an issue with that. I
read some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just agreeing. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I read some great advice recently, and I read it shortly before I moved, and like I have told myself this over and over and over to just to kind of keep me motivated. But I was reading something one day and it was about like adult ADHD and shit like that. And it was this one lady who just like the most simplest thing. She was like, I tell myself 100 times a day, don't set it down, put it away. Don't set it down, put it away. Don't set it down, put it away. I will literally walk through my fucking house and be like, don't set it down, put it away. Because it's so easy to just set it down, I'll pick it up later. And then later you got 75 fucking pick it up later somewheres. And it's like, then I'm too overwhelmed. I don't want to do it anymore. Fucking, I'm just going to do it tomorrow. And then it's like next week. And then it's like 8 years later and you got a house like mine and you got to move. Don't set it down, put it away. And I found that every time I would tell myself that and I would go fucking put it away, like how happy I felt that like I put it where it belonged. It's no longer just taking up space on the counter somewhere or in a place it doesn't belong. And I don't know why reading something so simple, something I obviously already know, was so poignant at that moment for me. But it has literally been something I say to myself at least 3 or 4 times a day. And it just keeps me from setting shit somewhere and letting stuff kind of collect. So I've really been able to just kind of keep my spaces a little more like less cluttered by don't set it down, put it away. Simple as shit.
Right.
I tried to tell my boys the same thing. Don't set it down, put it away. Don't set it down, put it away. Don't set it down, put it away. And I'll say it over and over and over. And it's like, it's literally that simple. Keeps my house picked up, keeps my room picked up, keeps my laundry picked up, keeps my, it keeps things picked up. And for me, like, that's where I get held hostage, is by stuff getting too cluttered. So that was definitely some great advice that I read. Don't put it down. Don't set it down, put it away.
You know what changed my life tremendously? I would watch, like, so my boss, who's like also like my friend, is very organized. He's a Taurus. I don't know if that means anything to you, but they're very organized.
Okay.
And he's also very process driven, right? And I noticed when I would rush out the house, I would like do my makeup and then rush out the house. But I didn't have my makeup out. It was just like in the bag. So I would have to pull all this stuff out. I have put it on my face, and now just brushes and all this stuff is on the floor. I got a makeup organizer, and I have all my stuff so I can easily access it, whatever I need. And now when I do my makeup and I come home, it's not all this stuff all spread out. Everything just goes right back where it needs to go. And so I realized that most of the time when it comes to like mess, whether it be like physical mess or in our life or whatever, we don't have a process. And once you have a proper process for something where everything needs to go, this is where this goes, and every time this is where it goes. Like even with keys, I tell my partner all the time, when you come in with your keys in your wallet, pick a single place
Literally.
that it is supposed to go. That way you never have to wonder, is it in your pants? Is it in your other sweatpants?
Right.
Every time you walk in the house, you place it here, it will always be there, because we're wasting 5 minutes, 10 minutes looking for your shit. So let's not do that.
Well, like how overwhelmed does he get in that moment? Like how much anxiety is building because of that? Like my ex was like that. He still like he loses shit every fucking day. And sometimes he'll lose his keys for like days. And I'm like, how do you do this? But it really just kind of goes to show the pathology of somebody's brain, how a person's brain is just so different from the next person, because something so simple as don't put it down, put it away would never work for him. Like he almost has a strange comfort in the dysfunction of chaos, and losing things is a big red flag in that to me, because how simple is it to put them on the counter all the time? Like, like I've got clients who, and I think it's the coolest thing, they've got like these key stations by their doors. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking perfect. Like one by the garage door, one by the front door, has like a shelf, has like hooks, has like, it's like a whole mail station by the front door. So you just come in, boom, put them down,
That's what I have in my, right next to mine. I put my, every time when I walk through the door, I put my keys right there. And It's to the point like you do it enough till you don't have to think about it
It
anymore.
becomes
autopilot.
Like
yeah.
that my keys go there, my wallet goes in my dresser drawer next to my bed.
Yep.
I don't even remember putting it there.
Mhm.
Like I do,
Wow.
it's such a thing now. Like, oh man, where my wallet? I don't even there because I've just gotten in the habit of doing it every time.
Right. But are
So,
you a person who would lose things like I don't lose things. So when I lose shit, it drives me super batty because I do
no,
not
I don't
misplace
lose
things.
stuff, and I'll eventually
Okay.
find it, but I'm always in and out. Like, and when I gotta go somewhere, I don't. That's one of those things. I don't need to waste another 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure
Nope.
Right.
out where I put something. And
Right.
it is
Nope.
frustrating for me
Right.
because it's unnecessary. So
Yep.
those are where I may not be organized with everything. And then even that's one of those things, even once if I'm doing a new business venture or I'm trying to rebuckle down and get some things, the first thing I start doing is cleaning up and organizing, throwing stuff away. Like I have to, in order for me to focus directly on this, I can't have any other clutter around me at all.
Yep.
So the first thing before I do anything major, I'm gonna clean my office. I'm gonna start throwing away stuff. I'm gonna start putting stuff
Yep.
in certain, like organizing, and it clears my mind to be able to focus differently.
You know what's interesting? What I notice with myself, if I am like just in some sort of funk or some sort of depression, I look around my room. My room looks a hot mess. It's literally like the way you keep your room, your house, or whatever. Like it is a direct reflection of what's going on here. And I think as soon as you like, I need to clean up. It's like you were already like, I need to get this clear. I need to figure some stuff out. And the first thing you think to do is clean. Because it's like something
I clean out my closet,
know.
my room, I clean everything. I get all of that clutter out so then I can unclutter my mind. I do that all the time, but that's how it works. We got like 20 minutes, so do we want to run down on these or the different? Let me throw, because mine was a little similar to one that you just said, and then Denise, you give us something. This is probably the biggest one that I was told probably about 15 years ago, and I always use it. Pick your battles one at a time. It was time. I was going through about 10 different things, and I was just like, man, I got this, and I got this, and this, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I think is my stuff going out? It's probably.
You were kind of. You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, now it's a little choppy. I like the pick your battles thing, though. I wish I would have learned that way earlier on, though, and I didn't.
Hard saying. Like when I was younger, I'm battling everything. I ain't letting nothing go. You know how much I used to hear, Denise, just let it go. And then now all that would do was just infuriate me even more. And now I'm like, I'm not letting it go. We're talking about it. It's gonna be, you know, it's just like, all that for what? All that for what?
For what? Because you had no control over the situation. It probably didn't change the fucking outcome. And it just ran me ragged. Like, no. But it goes back to like last week, you know, we talked about bad advice, but you know, we talk about the whole let go, let God thing, right? Like today I'm so at peace with that. And I don't think I liked to fight, but we're gonna talk some shit out. Like we're gonna talk this out.
Right, which is very different.
Yeah, but like it turned into a fight. So like it still went a way I didn't want to go. When if you would have just picked your battle to begin with, this ain't my battle to fucking fight with you.
Yeah. So my mentor, I was all over the place with 10 different things that wasn't going right, and he was like, "Hold on, just stop. Take one at a time."
Yeah.
He was like, "What's first? What's the highest priority?" And then we deal with that. Once we deal with that, and that's under control, then we look at what's next. And you deal one at a time. And you know what the funny thing is, even in the financial industry, they'll say the similar thing. Like if you have a lot of debts in different areas, they don't tell you like don't just keep paying the minimum balance on everything. Pick one, pay it all the way down, and then go to the next one, because you're going to be paying the minimum balance
minimums
on all these
forever.
different bills for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But if you just take one, knock it out, then take the next one, knock it out. You do it one at a time, then you'll actually see that those debts go away.
That's a good
True.
point. Oh,
True.
that's really good.
True. True.
Denise, what you got? We gotta go. What you got, Denise?
This is some advice that I've gotten, like work advice, and it has saved me and just made me look like a really excellent worker. Same boss, but he said, like, when someone asks you for something or whatever the case, like, let's say someone asks you for something and they need it by whatever time. If you can't, for whatever, get it to them at that time, or you let them know before they have to come to you. Hey, I'm still working on this thing. I'll follow up. Hey, I don't have the answer for this, but I'll follow up. Hey, I'm still working on it. If you do that, it just makes you so reliable and seems so reliable. I haven't forgotten about you. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. But the moment somebody has to ask you again for something,
about something that you said you're responsible for. Yeah.
That's some of the best advice that I've ever gotten.
No, that's very good. I agree with that 100%. That's the worst thing, and I got to reach out to you about something that you said you was gonna do. Nikki, what you got, Nikki?
I think my favorite advice has been the serenity prayer since I was a little girl. Really and truly, like there's no better advice than literally each word of the serenity prayer. You know, power to change the things that you can acknowledges that I can't change every fucking thing. So I'm going to have to make peace with the fact that some things I cannot change. And the wisdom to know the difference. The shit I can change and the shit I cannot change.
You gotta know that's the.
I mean, it
that's
literally
the best advice for productive life.
Life. Like there is not a single situation you can't apply the serenity prayer to. Good shit, bad shit, powerless stuff. I mean, and for me, I think that growing up, not really kind of being able to harness my emotions and energy and knowing that I am an empath and like trying to figure out how to put things where they go. I think so much of my fire initially, Denise, was that like I had to talk about it. We had to hash it out. But like, you know, the other statement that you hear people say is, you know, not trying to, you know, make people who are committed to misunderstanding you understand you. Yeah. So there's some dynamics I'm never gonna win in. There's some dynamics that it doesn't matter how much I try to communicate or try to break down a situation. If a person is just unable to process the information I'm giving, there's no way I can say it is going to work. So instead of beating myself up emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every fucking direction, I'm just gonna go on ahead and let this one go because that's all I can do. And as I've gotten older, I swear the peace that I have found in my true spirit when I should be a fucking catastrophe at most times, like I'm just not. And then on the flip side to that, when you do let it go and you let the universe have it,
let it go, let it go.
It always seems to work. It always works itself out. So in that interim of sitting still and letting it be whatever it's going to be, let the serenity prayer take over and do what it's going to do, give it away wherever it's supposed to give it away. Somehow it works out. You just have to be patient. And that's another thing we don't have, discipline or patience. The patience to just wait until the answers come to you or whatever the situation is. So I think my favorite advice is always a serenity prayer.
One thing I'm gonna add on to that, as far as for life, advice for life. I say this often, but I guess I reframe it. When you think about, like, what are your daily concerns about life? Most daily concerns that you have are not the same concerns that you will have a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Whatever my concerns are right now, I'm probably not even going to remember what they are later on down the road. So
Yep.
for me, and this is my advice, this is something that I come up with, is I say this a lot: make a memory. If you want to have
Yep.
the fullness of life,
Yep.
think about what brings you the most joys of life. Like it's your memories. Memories of things that you did with your kids and things you did with your parents and your best friends and different holidays. It's your memories.
Mm-hmm.
So be intentional
Mm-hmm.
about making memories and make as many good memories as you can. That's the wealth of your life. When you look back and you can have all of those good memories, then that'll put a smile on your face. Make memories. If you're not asking, and be intentional about it. Ask yourself, am I making memories or am I doing the same ish that I do every day?
Exactly.
If you go through a whole week and your whole week is so much of a routine that you can't even pick out Tuesday from Friday, and you like, I did the same thing every day. It's just, but you got to change that up. You got to do something that's going to make memories.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Cue something my dad used to say all the time, and I hated it until I realized what it meant. I hated it. He would say all the time, feelings just are. And I would get so mad because I would feel like when he would say that to me, he was like invalidating what I was feeling. But the mature adult me today knows feelings just are means, bitch, this is going to be gone in like 20 minutes. You are not going to feel this same way tomorrow or in 3 days or in 6 days or in 6 months. Like feelings are very temporary, but we get so enmeshed in how we feel sometimes at the moment that we're feeling whatever extreme emotion it is, that it's the actions that we take in that place that do all the damage.
Yep.
Make the bad
But then
decisions.
on the flip side, if you make a good memory and you have a good feeling about it, then that will travel with you in the right type of way. And you think about that later on. It was somebody I was talking to, I think it was earlier today. It was yesterday. I was talking to somebody I'm working with, and they were telling me about the best pizza the best pizza I ever had was in New York, and this and this and this and that. And they start describing the pizza, and they were like, when the sun was setting, and I was downtown looking. I said, the pizza, it wasn't the pizza that was good. You had a great experience at that time.
Yeah.
And that pizza was attached to the overall experience that you were having in that moment. They were like, yeah, you're right. They were like, that whole moment was just everything stood still for me at that time. So everything was better because of it.
Yep.
Hey, we got 8 minutes. Go, Denise. What you got? Some advice.
I have 2 relationship advice things.
Oh, I got 2 of them too, but go ahead.
the age-old one. Keep people out your business. Trust me, you don't need their advice. Go sit down and talk to your therapist or talk to your spouse. That's who you need to talk to.
Them first.
Them first, them last.
Right.
The second advice I would get, especially in the middle of like if you're having an argument, a disagreement or whatever, when you are feeling some sort of way, before speaking, ask yourself, what are you really trying to say? What do you really mean? Like, you could be going off because they said something and now you're angry. But then your response is, well, is it really anger? Or did that hurt your feelings? And if it did hurt your feelings, what about it hurt your feelings? And say that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Not I'm mad at you because why you ain't talking to me like that? Like, no, you said this hurt my feelings. It made me feel like you did not care about me. That's really as simple as what it is, but we just like go through all these things to say what we really need to say. So I guess my advice would be say what you really need to say.
Oh, okay. So that's one thing that I do, and I'm gonna be real quick, and then I do my 2 other relational ones.
Who else is on here?
I have a say
you
what?
hooking on?
Yeah, you hooking on?
Acting like you don't know who I am.
I didn't know. Because one, Mr. Sir, we don't have names
You
up.
gonna get in trouble.
And 2, you ain't got no avatar picture up.
Hello.
It's dark where I'm at right
No,
now. You
no,
won't see my face. I'm outside playing.
Hey, hey. So one of my my next day rule is so
Next
for instance,
day
if I'm
rule?
at a store, next day rule.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm at a store and I see a shirt or some shoes or something that I really, really like, excuse me, I had to sneeze. If I really like it, I won't get it.
Wait till the next day.
Wait till the next day. If I still feel the same way that I did the previous day, I go get it and I buy it.
Yeah.
But
Go
probably
cop that
75% of the time, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I gotta get this," and then I'm like, "Just wait." Next day, I'll be like, "Do I? Nah, I don't really need that."
What is that? You talking yourself out of treating yourself, or
No,
okay,
it's
okay, okay.
determining. Let the instant euphoria and emotions die out for a second,
Right,
because
right,
that's what the 24 hours do.
right.
You feel it. Maybe you in a good mood. You can just have some ice cream. Maybe you had a hard day's work and you feel like you just deserve something. So it ain't really the shirt. You just felt like you deserve something.
Right.
Give it a day. You know what? All right. And I come back tomorrow. Now, maybe 20% of the time I forget that it was something. If you forgot, then you didn't want it that much. If I think about it like, do I need this? Nah, not really.
Are you,
Then it lets
or
you
were
know.
you, or have you ever been an impulse buyer?
For a small period of time in my early 20s, once when I first came to Austin and I really had some money for the first time in my life.
Right.
My best friend reminded me, he's like, Q, I remember you wouldn't wear the same pair of socks twice. Like I needed all new socks.
Them
So
days.
I would wear socks one time and I never wear them again. And
You
I had like these big bags and bags of socks that I would just give away. This one I was feeling myself, man.
Wow.
I'm like, I just like the way they feel new.
Look, this one
brand new.
rent was $4.25. They had no kids.
Yeah. No, my amount of rent I was paying, I think it was between $250 and $450, something like that. I just had it like no kids,
right.
2 jobs, all. I'm like, man, I can do it. So anyway, in a likewise manner, if I'm really upset about something with a person, give it a day. I don't need to. No, I need to talk to him, get this straight. Give it a day.
Right.
Especially if it's something that makes me feel hurt or angry or sad or upset or frustrated. Give it a day. If I wake up in the morning and I still feel like it needs to be said, then I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will actually say it in a more objective fashion as well, and without all of the emotion, but the part of it that's needed, the information that's needed, then I speak that. So that's just me. Hey, give it a day. That's my next day principle. We got just a couple minutes left. Yehukanan, any good advice? You got anyone you want to throw in? Good words of advice?
Yeah. Think before you act and listen before you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times we react off emotion, so we like to dive in head first. And it's kind of like what you just said just a moment ago. Like, they give it a 24-hour period, to let things die down. So it's in terms of thinking rational rather than irrational, especially like if you're coming from a single parent home and you don't have both dynamics in the house, so it's kind of unbalanced in a sense, depending on the setting. So I think it will resolve a lot of, I'll say, heated arguments when there's some rationale there. And you guys mentioned something about letting it go, and not holding on to things, and that's how individuals grow when they don't harness and hold on to things for such a long period of time because it begins to fester, it becomes infectious, to where it kind of put like a stain, a heavy stain on a person's character because they're holding on to, they call it grudges. We call it grudges, holding on to these grudges, things that happened a few years back rather than letting it go, moving forward, or even so, finding the positive. I'll put it to you this way. I'll quote Lauryn Hill, turning the negative into a positive picture, finding the positivity. If something doesn't pan out the way you epiphanize it or had an epiphany on how things were supposed to play out in your head, and then it actually played out in real life. I'll leave it that.
Yeah, and so oh dang, you had me thinking of something, but anyway, I lost that part. But the one thing I will say before I go right back to you, Nikki, because we were talking about relationships. Dang, you had me thinking about something, and I can't remember what it.
Things not going the way that you might want it to go. Was it
Think
that?
before,
Oh,
think
okay.
before you
So
speak.
even the thing about with the emotion and wanting your emotions to die down. One thing is so emotions don't and oftentimes are not rational, and they don't have to be, and it's okay for them not to be. I would say, like, don't always try to shun your emotions like it's a bad thing. It is emotions are necessary. As humans, emotions are necessary, and
Sure.
it's okay to express those emotions. However, whenever you're trying to communicate to the point of a resolve, emotions can muddy the water. So a lot of times when there is an emotional conversation, a person can feel some type of maybe empathy for you. They can feel something, but as far as the resolve is a lot harder to come by because it's more trying to decipher what it is you were really the root of the issue versus, because a lot of times if you super emotional, I could just follow your emotions and be like, oh, Nikki is really upset. But then you'll be like, are you paying attention to why I'm upset though? Because that don't help you just for a person. If me acknowledging that you're upset, that's not gonna make you happy because it's like all you see is I'm upset, but you don't see why. Right. So the thing is, if you should want to properly communicate. If you want to communicate to the point of a resolve, then you want those emotions to die down a little more before you just go at somebody. That's what I was trying to say. Now, my 2 relational pieces of advice. This is probably marriage wise. Number 1, file first. That was advice.
File first.
That was advice. Literally, I'm not gonna lie. That was advice that 3 or 4 different people gave me, and I didn't take it. And it was that piece of advice would have took me so much further along over these last 5, 6 years.
How? I mean, and bear with my ignorance here, because all I had to do was change locks when I got divorced. I had to do shit. So, like, why would filing first make the difference?
So for me, in this instance, when she left and I had my kids, the main part of me, I didn't want to create any ripples. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. Look, if this is just the way it is, this is how it is. I got my kids. We just gonna figure it out. We will, work civilly together. People kept telling me, no, you need to file for custody now. Okay,
so it's the filing that would have given you protections or something had you filed first.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I didn't want that to be
your story.
I didn't want it to be taken as like an aggressive move on my part. Like, oh, that's what we doing now. You over here filing stuff, and it's like, I wanted to keep as much peace as possible.
Right.
And that I should have listened to the 3 or 4 people who told me I needed to file.
File first. Damn.
That was crazy because my dad was even one of the people who told me that. And he never speaks like that. He's all about, the reconciliation and making it work. He's like, You need to find. He told me that. I'm like, dang, that's deep coming from him.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that leads me to my second piece of advice relationally is the person you married and the person you divorced are two different people. Now, let me say this. You can think that you and your relationship is the exception to the rule, and it might be. But if it is, understand that that's the exception. That's the 5%. If you want to gamble a large portion of your future that you are the exception, go right ahead. But in most cases, the person that you married is not the same person you divorced, and all this, oh, well, you know, I've known them since they were this and this. They would never do that to me. So many people, in my experience and people that I know, the person, once they got it, because the person is not tied to you like that anymore. They're already out for themselves. Their self-preservation is kicked in. They're scrapping to get everything that they can get. And even if they don't, they've already put lawyers in place, and the lawyer has been hired to snatch everything that they can. So even if they're not the one proactively going at it, then they've already allowed other entities to be the go after your stuff for you. So you just need to get that out your mind. I don't care how much we knew each other since high school. They would never do. You don't know what a person would do. The thing that keeps people in line is because you're connected together, and your when you're together, his failure is my failure, and my failure is her failure. But when everybody for themselves, whatever, he got to figure that out. Like everybody's for themselves, and you just be surprised. It's one of the things, like, it reminds me of one of the reasons why we comfortably drive on the road is that we have an overall assumption and a correct assumption that everybody else on the road has family or people they care. They want to make it home safely just like I do. Right. So even though if I'm going 70 miles an hour and another vehicle is going 70 miles an hour the opposite direction on the opposite lane of me, I have the faith that we're both trying to make it to a destination and ultimately make it back safe. We all in the same team on this, so we don't have to think otherwise. Now, say for instance, this is a super crazy scenario. What if all of the people who were deemed suicidal were sent to live in their own city? So everybody in this city, these are people who have or at some point suffer from suicidal thoughts, this and this and that. Would you feel as safe driving on the road knowing that there's a high percentage of people who may not be interested in life the same way that you are?
Ain't trying to make it home at the end of the day.
It changes things.
Damn it. I think about that oftentimes when I'm on like a 2-lane.
Yeah.
I never ride the inside. I'm always on the shoulder. I'm like, all it takes is one person to be like, you know what, fuck this, hands off the wheel.
But that's what I'm saying. Once when you are in a relationship, you both have the same mindset, even if you see things differently, ultimately your goal was we're going to make it through life together and we're going to come out on the other side victorious. Yeah. Once that's out the window, you cannot, you have no idea what the other person, they ain't in your corner no more. If things work well for you, fine, but if they don't, that ain't my problem. It's two totally different people.
Damn, that's true. That's real true. How many times has someone said to you, I can use mine as an example. After we split up, years ago, I had even girlfriends who knew us. Were like, no way, I just can't see that in him. Like I would never, like like even now, like with the whole shit that went down with the moving weekend, you know, one of my girlfriends has been around since like literally the day Kasha was born. I've known her since before. She's like, I never, you know, after 24 years, she's like, I never ever, she's like, I just never would have thought this. And I was like, yeah, y'all been saying that for a long time. And I'd like to believe I never would have thought that either. But when people show you who they are, you got to believe them. That's my motherfucking good advice. So people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them, because they tell us all the time who they really, really are, you know, as do we, you know, but yeah, they're not the same people at the end. And that they say but they do say the same red flags you excuse in the beginning is going to be the same red flags you leave them for at the end. So, you know.
Yep. Denise, good advice.
Oh, this is the one that I had thought about from the beginning. People used to tell me this when I was younger, and I did not understand what they meant until I got older. And there's a flip side to this too. But they would say, don't change. And I think what they're speaking to, like, there's these things inside of us that are like ways that I feel like we were born to be, right? And that's innately us. When people think of us, they think of whatever this thing is. And like, I'm just always laughing, joking, smiling, whatever and stuff. And people would tell me to never change that. Like, you know, and I think what happens is it usually be people who are older than me. It's like life can happen to you and it can definitely change you. It can change you for the better. It can change you for the worse. But it's like not letting things that happen to you take away you from you. And so I think that's advice I would give anybody. It's like, yes, it's good to grow.
Right.
But don't let something like snatch the essence of who you are from you.
That
your
part.
surroundings should not redefine who you are.
Yeah.
You should always stay to who you are at your core and your outside things. Now, Denise, I'm gonna give you quick business advice. A thousandaire will give you better advice than a billionaire.
Tell me more.
A lot of people always seek for the most highest profile, worth 100 million, worth $1 billion, and they try to quote them and they look for them for wisdom and business advice. When the truth is, like I said, a thousandaire, you don't need someone who's over 20 different, major corporations to give you business advice. In most cases, they're speaking so high over your head and on a different level that it won't even compute, or the type of information that they give you is going to have to be super general because it'll be hard for it to be relevant to where you currently are.
True.
Now, when I say a thousandaire, I'm talking about people who were where you are maybe 3 or 4 years ago. They're not a millionaire, but they're making good multiple 6 figures, and they're doing successful. And those people can give you much better business advice because they've more recently been where you've been, and they're only 3 or 4 steps ahead of where you are. So it's easier for them to look at where you are and say, oh, okay, this is the next thing you need to do. And you need to do this. And then you get set up with this, get this tax number, get this and this and that. This is the way that you market. Yeah, I did a show like that. So for instance, like, and I've said this before, Smack will probably give you better advice in music than Jay-Z will.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You're talking about somebody on a whole different level who used different means. They didn't flourish through the independent. Like, someone who's 5 steps ahead of you can give you much better advice than somebody who's 500 steps ahead of you.
Yeah, I agree with that. 1000%. Because that's more aligned. And then the other piece is like you said, a person who's 500 steps ahead of me, there's certain jobs and tasks that they're paying someone else to do that they don't even probably know anything about.
Right.
Versus someone who is independent, who's doing pretty much every role. You know,
Right.
like they can teach me and guide me, and they know what I'm actually going through. Versus someone else who's
Right.
so far removed from life. You don't. You're like,
And
oh
they'll
yeah, all you
tell
gotta
you
do
up
is
front,
spend
well, the best way to do is
$1,000.
do this right here, but they're going to charge you too much. So instead of doing that, then you want to do it this way because they're also mindful of what it is to market on a budget. And they're going to show you the best way to do it in the most efficient ways of where you are versus you just got to get out there and take chances. And one day it'll, you know, some of that stuff these people were, okay, but you know, theory, yes, but in practicality, they can't give you a lot of practical to do steps.
Yeah.
I have 2 and then I'm done, and then anybody else who have a final one, then we could do it and get out of here. Okay. Since we're on Facebook, let me throw this out here. I'm sure I've said this before, but I really want people to hear this. A Facebook friend you can't call isn't a friend.
A Facebook friend you can't call is not a friend?
Is not a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
If y'all can he it up and send messages, and then I'm praying for you, and they put the prayer emojis up every time you say you go, all of this stuff, but you can't actually call them.
Right.
Not a friend. Don't call those people friends. And I'm not saying that in a negative way or they don't deserve it. I'm saying in order for you to be healthy, if you want to be relationally healthy, you need to properly define your relationships. And I find more people get themselves in trouble or worked up or disappointed because they've labeled people friends who never deserved that title in the first place. And your relationship didn't warrant it. And that's why I said that's just one of many, many different things. But a Facebook friend you can't call isn't a friend. And I've done this. I don't know how many. I do this all the time. Like, if I see somebody's really going through it, whether they're going through depression or other things that I may be concerned about, I had a homegirl. I'm like, look, I know I ain't talked to you since we was junior in high school, but hey, this is my number. Give me a call.
Right.
If you need to talk something out, this and this and that, just let me know.
Wow.
And they did reach out to me. I don't care what it is. Like, I don't care. We ain't talking 20 years. Give me a call.
Hey, you know what? I have a issue with that I battle with in regards to and not just Facebook folks, but just, you know, somebody, you know, reaching out to them, or, you know, you giving them your number and telling them to reach out, and in the phone book and have it collect dust. They never reach out or what have you. And, you know, you have the mindset like, well, if you ain't reaching out to me, you know, I'm not going to reach out to you. So one of the things that I'm kind of like that, as far as like, not just folks on Facebook, but, you know, as you know, those who I know back in the day or that I just met. I tried to, you know, change that a little bit as far as like reaching out, or in your case, checking in on somebody if there's something going on. But a lot of the times when, you know, you know, tell that person to keep in touch or reach out or whatever, a lot of the times they don't actually necessarily use it until you reach out first. And
right.
And then most cases, some cases, when you do reach out, they don't reach back. So it's kind of like, you know, like, you know, playing, you know, tag and whatnot in regards to, you know, keeping in touch, or keeping, you know, what's another word? Catching up on things, you know, that you guys haven't spoken in a while, or, you know, whatever the case may be with that. But, you know, I'm trying to change that around in regards to reaching out to those who within the proximity of my circle, or even those I haven't seen in a while.
You know what?
And I don't even do that. Like, sometimes if I feel like it's something real serious and I ain't sure, I will just call you. Nowadays with Messenger, I ain't even, I'm gonna call you on Messenger. Hey.
Q straight up called me when I was going through it. I was depressed. I needed that phone call, Q. Like 2 summers ago.
But like Yahukanan said, it's sometimes people not gonna, they want to, but they don't. Like, it's it's an awkward and uncomfortable thing to just call somebody you don't regularly speak to out of the blue. So even if they want to sometime, and I might feel that, I'll just initiate. Hey, I'm gonna call you.
You may not even know
And
you
halftime
need
they
to
don't
talk to
answer,
somebody.
and they be like,
That
"Did you
part.
mean what you say?"
You may not even know you need to talk to somebody, so they call you. And
Yep.
then
Uh-huh.
3
Hey, I
hours
gotta
later
jump out
at
and come back
6.
in, because I'm having trouble with my sound.
Oh, we gonna be gone by the time you get back, but we sure appreciate you being up on here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 3 hours later, you finally hang up that call, knowing.
Yeah. Oh, let me give you the last one about friends though, and this is another piece of my advice. Never consider someone a friend if you only have one commonality. And what I mean by that, oh, we the best of buddies. But if me and Nikki only interact while we doing a live on Freethinkers, I'm not gonna consider her my friend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just my best friend, but all we do is play basketball together. We've never met or hung out outside of the basketball court. Oh, that's my homie. We only interact at church, but we never interacted outside of church. I won't consider those people. If we only have one commonality, I can't know that you're a friend, because what happens if that commonality goes away?
Right.
My back messed up. I don't play basketball no more. Are we
Right.
still
Still
cool?
my
Are we
friend?
still gonna keep them? We was
Right.
the best of buds, go out to eat all the time at lunch. I don't work at the job no more. Do we still keep in touch and communicate?
Right.
Until that happens, I don't consider people my friend.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
I
it's
just,
situational. It's just like being friends with someone in high school. It's like y'all have to be there every day. It's like outside of that, what happens? Like outside of college, like you said, outside of your job. Proximity friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that's all I got.
Oh yeah, I want to add a little bit more. I want to add a little bit more to that. As far as like having somebody reach out to you, or maybe vice versa in some cases. You're not on that priority list, or they may not be on yours. Let's say are we still friends outside of like you gave the example basketball, or work, or whatever the case may be, whatever setting that you got that there is, and there's an event that's going on, and the person hosts the event, invites everybody out except you, or expects you to show up when they having the hosting event, and then you turn around or have that same event, a gathering, a get together, and then nobody shows up. To me that's like that shows that I'm not on your priority list, but you expect for me to show up. But if it's in reverse or vice versa, I'm expecting you to show up and you don't show. But when you host something, or you have something, invite somebody, you expect me to show up. It's just that the priority is mixed up in a sense, to where they don't reach out to you like that in regards to hanging out outside of workplace or whatever. There's a real disparity there.
Can I add to that, Yuhukanan?
Yeah, what's up? I hope I was making sense, because I probably was all over the place.
No, I know what you mean. It's like you're speaking to, like, sometimes things don't feel like reciprocated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to add, like, something I'm learning too, because I notice sometimes I do the same thing, is not personalizing. Not personalizing.
My mic.
Okay. Not personalizing, not getting a response. Because for one, I think that we are all overwhelmed and inundated with communication. We got email on our phones, we got text messages, we got group texts, we have WhatsApp, we have Instagram, we have whatever random companies sending us stuff about the discount at 50%. Like, we're literally being messaged and talked to. We ain't even got into work stuff. So we're literally, we are communicating with people more than any group of people
Right.
before us. And I think there needs to be studies on how much and how often. And then we're not even getting into like comments and response to comments and being tagged in this or that. Like, honestly, it can be overwhelming. And then also, like, you may want to go support somebody and you might just really truly be exhausted.
Right.
Or maybe you can't go because the scheduling just does not permit for that. So it's like there are times when people are clearly not reciprocating, but then there are times when I think life be lifing, and I think we have to give each other grace. Because I was supposed to listen to this song somebody sent me. I was giving them advice. They sent me that song 2 Saturdays ago. I told them I was going to get to it, but I don't like halfway listening to something that somebody
Mhm.
did, or halfway reading something somebody
Mhm.
sent me. Like, I want to wait until I'm in the space where I can really receive it
Mhm.
versus just being like, yeah, whatever, and just responding for the sake of. So I think there's like a nuance to everything, but it's hard not to personalize things for sure. I do it still. I'll be like, dang, why so and so hit me back yet?
Right.
So going through pure hell.
Yeah, that's true, and I can relate to that because you never know what the person is going through on the other end of the phone or the other end of the spectrum. They could, be going through, you know, um, tough times or whatnot. But that's even more of a reason to reach out because they may need somebody to talk to or listen. When there's no communication going on for 2 or 3 weeks or so, and they send you a song or whatever the case may be. You never know what a person is going through, but that small gesture, token of reaching out can do a lot to a person's mood as far as changing, because the communication has ceased to stop for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example, and I don't want to hold this up, but I'll give you an example. I had reached out to somebody who found out that they had a form of cancer. And this is somebody, like, we all used to live together, like all kinds of stuff. And I responded to them in like 2 voice notes. And then I text them maybe like a week or so later. And then I messaged them, like responded to a message on IG or something. They said nothing to me. And literally, like, one day after Free Thinkers, they were like, can you talk? So it's like you even if a person isn't responding, you never know. They might just be taking it in. And so it's like sometimes, because I was like, man, I'm not gonna say that. He probably tired of me. He probably want to talk to me, like, kind of thing. But I'm like, but my spirit was like, nah, you're gonna send this anyways. You're gonna say this anyways. You're gonna do this anyways, because it's not about your ego. This is about doing
Mhm.
what you need to do. And so you just never know. And the same thing with my music. Sometimes I'm like, I just be feeling like I'm posting shit. Like, ain't nobody even watching this, paying attention to this, listening to, like, and then you'll find out later that they are. So I think it's
Mhm.
just for us to move in our, like, divine destiny and be who we are at heart at all times, no matter what, because you just never know who is being affected by what you're doing. Even if they don't respond to you, you could be highly affecting someone just by reaching out. That could be the thing that helped them not go over the edge.
Mhm.
Hey Denise, I got an example. I got an example of that. To what you just said. Something similar. So I
Mm-hmm.
would post stuff on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get too many comments or reactions.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I talk to the individual or whatever, they'll come to me and be like, "I read everything you post," and I'll be
Mhm.
like, "Well, why you didn't, respond to the post at that point in time?" And I'll be like, "Dang, man, like, but they are paying attention, nonetheless, in regards to, stuff that you may put on social media or post or whatever. They are paying attention. And like you said, that life may be life from right now to where they probably get sidetracked and wanted to respond but forgot, or it's just something that guess resonated with them at that point in time, and they just sitting and marinating on it in a sense.
Well, it just kind of goes back to last week's conversation about having emotional bandwidth to deal with people. If you don't have the emotional space to deal with somebody, I can't give you what I ain't got to give. And if you take that offensively, then that's about you. Yes, I could do better and be better, but if I'm not fucking better right now, you can't expect something out of me I can't give. But that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the text messages, or I don't appreciate the emojis, or I don't appreciate, and then we have to remember that everybody responds to things differently. I'm the type of friend where I could be a fucking life jacket to everybody. You can bounce everything off of me and I got you. I don't do that to other people very often and very well. So this last 2-3 weeks of this moving experience I've gone through, I have had to depend on other people. I have had to ask for help. I've had to borrow money for the first time in my fucking life. And these are such uncomfortable places for me. But I also have great, healthy relationships with enough men and women in my village that know that if I don't respond, it's not personal. I'm just over here trying to fucking breathe and figure this out. But I'm going to come out from under this rock. I promise I'm coming, because I always do. But just give me a second, like give me a minute, like if you got to do the drive-by, cool, do a drive-by and pop up on me. If you just got to send me a, hey girl, I'm thinking about you, man, that's all, that is enough right there, because sometimes people are not emotionally capable of even processing how they feel. Some people, there's an avoidance to some of this too. We choose to avoid some of these things. And then sometimes you get to a situation where you just don't want to repeat yourself 50 fucking times. Like, I don't want to have to tell 5 of my girlfriends the same shit. Like, let's just all go to dinner, damn it. Or y'all all come over, let's go to the backyard, let's have a powwow, But, I think that unless I've received energy from somebody that they're not interested in receiving my inquiries into them, I'm okay if somebody doesn't respond in the time in which I would want. As long as I know that you got the love that I sent in the text message or whatever the case may be, you got it, cool, that's all I need to know. You received it. You holler at me whenever you're ready. And my time will come. You'll call whenever you're ready and I'll be here for you when you are. But if the energy has given you're not priority, as opposed to I can't even make me a priority right now, then it's different. It has to be reciprocal. And I think even in friendships where there's like depression or overwhelming things happening, life is lifing, you still know there's an emotional connection to your friend. I'm just not able to tend to that at this particular second. Versus, like, I had somebody who texted me a couple days ago, was like, oh, how's the move going? How are you guys doing? Are y'all all settled in? And I thought about lying, and I replied back, and I was like, no, I'm not fucking settled in. I need a fucking truck, and I need some money, and I need to finish unloading these storage units into my house. That's what I need. I haven't heard back from that person. And that's okay. Maybe they just wanted to do the generic, oh, how are you doing thing. Well, that's cool. I told you how I was doing.
When people do it after the fact, after they think everything done over with.
Absolutely.
Right.
I didn't think you was gonna say. I didn't think you was gonna say you need some help. I thought you was gonna say, "Oh yes, we're all fine. We're all done." No, I'm not. I'm fucking
Thanks
not.
for asking. Oh no, we still work to do around here.
But I know that the disconnect is the lack of reciprocal priority. So, like, I'm not gonna take it offensively because I know you really don't give a fuck about me anyways. You might have just been trying to be nosy. But coming from somebody else, like Q called one day, I didn't take the call. I think maybe a day later, 2 days later, I finally was like, fuck. I was like, I got your call. Like, I'm sorry I didn't call you back. Like, there's an energy that exists even in a disconnect that still says, hey, we're still here. Even though I might not be here with you right now, like, we're still here. As opposed to, I really don't care about you. It just sounds good. And I just say these things because it makes me feel good. Like, oh, I checked in. That's my duty. But you
messed up. This was back the old church I used to go to. Used to be a church. Our church was off of not Runberg, Rutland, off of Rutland Drive by
Right.
Metric over here. So at the time when our church was there, I didn't have a car, and I was out on the east side, like over close to HT over there. Anyway,
Okay.
whole point of the story is when I lived over there, I didn't have no car. Had to ask a lot of people, had to reach out for help to get somebody to take me home. Maybe most of the time I just caught the bus because I ain't like asking people. Fast forward a few months later, I get an apartment. I get a apartment on Rutland Drive.
Right by church.
About a 6-minute walk away from the, So then church be over, and then I'll be walking to my house. Then everybody always that you need a ride. Oh, to walk around the corner? No, thank you. That would have been nice if you would have been asking me that when I needed to get across town. That would have been nice. But now you trying to nicely ask me because it ain't even gonna take you off your route like that.
Right.
It was literally a 7-minute walk from where the church was to me walking to my house.
I got this.
Right. And I'm like, y'all don't even like to the point it was more insulting that you asked me now because you think you're gonna get some quick kudo points because you no, you would have did that when it was out of your way or it wasn't most convenient for you. That would have been more appreciated.
And Q, I hate situations like that where you maybe subconsciously or unsubconsciously use them as some kind of friendship test. Like, I fucking even hate the word friendship test. Like, I hate the thought friendship test. Like, I hate thinking that we have to test out our relationships with people, right? But like, I have definitely experienced that through the course of this move. I had no expectations of anybody or anything except very few people in this world. And those expectations are only there because those are what they gave to me. So if you tell me something, I expect you're going to do what you say you're going to do. But it's been a very interesting last couple of weeks of really seeing who has been here for me and my family versus who has not. And I don't even really care anymore about who hasn't. I appreciate who has been because who's going to show up is who's supposed to be there. But there's been a lot of friendships that have been tested.
But that's the blessing, though.
Reorganized and reclassified.
It's absolutely a blessing. And
it is. I agree.
Hukanan was talking about, people not, really telling you that they rock with you. And so whatever the case is, it's good. I can't remember.
I agree.
We had a conversation like this at one point in time. What you want more than anything is clarity. And it's a blessing to get the clarity to see people for who they really are, because they've always been that. The problem is if you don't have the clarity, you don't have the clear ability to see not only who a person is, but how they've always been.
Yeah.
So now once you have that the clarity and the ability to see, it ain't like, man, I can't believe that you did that to me, or I can't believe that you didn't do this. It's like, wow. This is
who you are.
Is eye-opening. This is who you are, and not only who you are. This is who
I am to you.
Right.
That's the part that fucks me up. That's the part that I've had to kind of wrap my brain around a little bit. And I think that my struggle is because I care so much about people when I care about you that when the first sign of that's not reciprocated is seen, and then like the second sign, and then like the third sign, it's like, okay.
I like the way you said that. Said, this is who I am to you.
This is who I am to you.
Those are the ones that hurt the most. Where you
really,
like when you're like, yeah, you really showed up for a person, you really do this thing, that thing, and then it confuses you because it makes you think that the relationship is deep, but really because you wouldn't think a person would accept even certain things unless they felt a closeness, you know, or would be willing to like reciprocate. And it's not about wanting the reciprocation, because you don't do it out of wanting the reciprocation.
Right.
But then when you find out, you're like, oh, they don't really. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. It really makes you go, and I know you're not supposed to, but I think like default for me has been anyways, I try not to dig into the past and like connect the dots of certain shit, but it's like when it all comes to fruition, like when it all comes to the surface, you can't not look back at certain things and be like, I saw it here and I saw it here and I saw it here, but it's like, it's a motherfucker. It's an interesting slap in the face, and it's like, it makes you question yourself. It makes you question how did I not see this properly? But then I also have to give credit to the power of manipulation.
Oof.
And I mean, and no matter how tough a person is, which I think I'm tough, no matter how durable a person is, I think I'm very durable. I think I can see through a whole lot of bullshit. But manipulation, oh God.
But
When you
it ain't
care
just
about,
manipulation. It's
huh?
when you really got love for a person. When you
This was
really
it.
got
When you
love for a
care
person, then
about
there is.
somebody, boy.
That's what the Bible talks.
Self-manipulation.
It don't say it the same way, but it talks about love covers a multitude of sins, and basically what that means, a person with all of their flaws, when you love someone, then you willfully overlook those flaws because you're more focused in on the
The
core of the
love.
person or the good virtues of the person. So it's that's actually what love is supposed to do. So don't feel bad about it. It just be a trip when the
Right.
scales come off your eyes and you be like, dang, really? Is that what, like, how did I? And then at a certain point in time, it becomes clear to you. It's like, this is so clearly in my face.
And then, now you can't undo it. Now it's like, now all of your interactions are led with that, because now I fucking know. It's like, now I know what time it is. Now I for real know where I stand with you. So this is the version of me that you get. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Did we freeze up?
Yeah, I think Q was. We can't.
Uh-oh,
Okay.
Maybe I
Okay, there you
froze up.
go.
There you go.
All right.
Look,
Any final words?
that's internet Q. No, I don't think so. But you know what? One bit of advice that keeps sticking in my head, and I've said this before, is if you want to have a friend, you do have to be a friend. So, despite what we just talked about, I still believe that you still have to be a friend in order to get a friend. But you do have to have the wherewithal to be able to tell when it's reciprocal and when it's one-sided. Because takers gonna always take and givers gonna always give.
Yeah.
So that's what you remind me of. The filter goes both ways. So a lot of time people have a certain wall up and they only let so much of themselves out because they're trying to protect themselves. But that same filter that you're blocking people from getting to you, then you're also blocking yourself from receiving the same thing that you. A lot of people want love and they want friendship and understanding and a connection, but if you're not opening yourself up enough to receive it or to give it, then if you block yourself in giving it, then you block yourself from receiving it also.
Agreed. I like that.
All right, well,
that's it.
Speaking of giving and receiving, y'all come out next week and make a friend.
Next Tuesday, we'll have more information, address, all that good jazz. It's Dirty Glove Midwest Barbecue up the food truck on East Howard Lane, Howard and 35. We'll be meeting regular time, so we will not be live next week. We will be in person. If you're local, come check us out. We'll start right at 8 o'clock. We'll go till 9:30. We usually stay and hang out till 10, 11, 12, whatever. BYO, whatever. Bring your money, bring an appetite, be ready to eat, and come talk some shit with us next Tuesday. That's it. Good night, y'all.
Peace and breathe.